Hello guys and welcome back. Pete Dahlgren here, building the Mears Models F86. Now what I'm doing here is I've actually completely and totally assembled the airplane without a lot of things in it, and what I'm doing now is getting the final prep done for 2K primer, and I'm doing final filling and everything here now to get everything kind of blended together and make sure all this stuff is tight. That'll be even tighter. It needs to be taken, removed again, and done. That is some primer that I used underneath it, and I'm just leveling it off. It's pretty rough. Now, I used some 80 grit because I had some runs in the resin, and that happens. And knocking it down, getting it so that everything else is good, it takes a little bit of time. And I added a little bit more resin this time than I did on the nose, simply because I'm using it kind of more like a primer, and I'm actually kind of filing it off here and there. But as you guys can see, she's taking shape, and I've got a lot of sanding and things to do and things to get everything tightened back up. And this and that, have not done any work on this side at all. And I'm going to show you a little bit about this. That's just fingerprints, nothing serious. But I did get a couple runs in it, and it happens. It's not a big deal. Now, getting this down and knocking it down looks messy, but don't let it deceive you. There's a little bit of this and that in there, but you'll go from having a rough surface like this. And this one, I don't know why it did that so much. And I tried a couple things a little differently, and I had a little bit of dust on it there, and kind of, it's not ruined by any means, but Z-epoxy sounds so amazingly easy anyway. It's not a problem. Got a lot of body work and a lot of things going on. This is a very messy process, and a lot of guys have asked me about this. These are just cheap Harbor Freight body working stands that work. They're already padded, and they work fantastic for doing this process. So anyway, I've sanded it a little bit here and there, but I'm actually going through, and actually this is a very messy process. There's no way to get it, but I wanted to show you just what it is before you get it in kind of steps. That's guide coat on there, and I use that to sand out and get these seams looking good and stuff. But you can see I got a lot of dust. That's very deceiving on it. You want to keep this as clean as possible. Little spots like this, little spots like that, they're just going to have to be touched up. Simple as that. And you can count on this being a very long and lengthy process of doing this, but I spent all day on one side. I went from looking pretty rough there to actually getting it to where it's here. There's some minor filling to do. Found a little dent in there, needed to fix, not a big deal. It's very thin, not enough to worry about. Then getting all this stuff where these all are looking good, and this and that took a little bit of doing, but they do fit in well. So anyway, your body working preferences and all that stuff like that are going to be pretty much on yours. I use 2K primers, and I use some Duplicolor for spot priming and stuff like that, because I will use the Duplicolor to do the panel lines. And I did, like I said, I did do a little bit of one just to kind of show what I'm looking for, and this kind of determine how much of the depth. I did trim this side out in here just a little bit, but I'm not going to do that one until I'm ready to do the final step. And this gives me a little bit more rigidity around here, so I don't accidentally break that. I don't think you could, but then again, with me, anything's possible. But anyway, I think one of the big things is this is not a time to hurry up. You got to really finesse this. You're not using any pressure on things, and you got to come up and do it. And you're going to be doing a little bit of filling and this and that. And this is why I like the 2K primers, is because they do dry quickly, they dry chemically, and they're not going to shrink back and show sand scratches and things like that. So basically, I put 2 coats on, like here, and I've just roughly gone on this, and you can see just how well they do fill, and that is done. So when I come back and do this, I will sand this down to 400 grit before doing panel lines, and then the rest of it will be there. And one thing I emphasize is don't try to get it too straight. You're going to see little shadows and things like this, but I can assure you that this is not final sanded, and you want to reach over and look and get down these things and do it. And you can always take excuse me, I swallowed wrong. Anyway, you can take things and you can get it and wipe it down with water, and the dust will deceive you. So this is what you got to do in order to get it. You're going to see little spots like this, but they will come off and they will deceive you. So don't be deceived by dark and light. Just go, and then you don't want to, and this is just kind of a testimonial on this. You don't want this so thick that you're not seeing the wood on that. Excuse me. And these are not just necessarily big high spots. And it's okay to have a few of them because real airplanes aren't straight anyway. So this will aid when you do go and do your panel lines. Every bit of that will disappear under there. And a lot of you seasoned builders know this, but a lot of you new builders going, oh my God, is that right? Yes, it is. So don't get too overly concerned with seeing little things. And you don't want, if you're doing rivets and panel lines and all that stuff, it's fine. This thing is not a car. So, you know, you're not looking like that one right there. It's nice and straight and shiny. This is not going to be nice and straight and shiny. It's going to be camouflaged and battle damaged and wore out and beer can effect and all that stuff like that. So these are just little things you want. And when I get into this, I got about, I probably got about a week's worth of body work to do here, and just getting this thing just nice and neat. And then we'll start laying out the panel lines on that. Also, why this is getting done on this, I'm going to clear this table off because this will stay as it is right now. It'll stay done until I'm ready to start doing certain things, because now if you're building the one-piece fuselage, this is the way you're going to be. If you're doing a two-piece, then I'll show you another step, because we're going to fill this and then we're going to mask the inside of these seams and get these all nice and even. That'll look like a panel line. And it was straight before I glassed it, but now I've got to come back and sand that and true it up. And I'll do that simply with 100 grit, and then I'll come back and I'll backfill it a little bit. You guys have noticed there's a lot of spots that don't look good, and it's just cosmetic at that point. And with the spot putty, when you prime over it, it absorbs it and makes it permanent. You can't just keep putting it on and on. You need to give it and sand it and make sure it's fairly thin. You don't want to be making big. With the spot putty that I use, it's catalyzed. But if you get it too thick, eventually when the sun hits it, it'll break it. So you want to put it on as thin as you possible, and you want at least 2 or 3 coats of primer over the top of that, because it will soak all the way through it and it'll just turn it into primer. But you want to keep your mill thickness as realistic as possible. So I'm only going with maybe 3 mils of paint on this. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's not that much. It's only about the thickness of the primer is only on about the thickness on this jet, about the thickness of a piece of masking tape. So don't bury it and try to get it on there as extremely thick. Put it on thin coats, let it cure, then come back. Now, if you're using the 2K, it will go on considerably thicker, but you're sanding it off. By the time you're done, you're less than a mil worth of paint, and you're filling all these imperfections. And it comes out really nice. So don't let little spots like this fool you, this is what you will sand almost all of the primer that you put on for your first coat. You will sand almost all of it off. I have not done it on this one yet. When I get to that point and I actually wet sand this down and get it where it is, I will take a picture of it and I will send it to you guys to show you what you should be looking at, because you're going to see all of your low spots and all your high spots are going to show up as wood again. So this is something I want to show you guys so that you guys don't think you're messing your airplane up. And these lines in here, if you look down it, they will deceive you. They're not going to show up in there. And let me just show you. This is just straight water. One thing I tell a lot of guys too, don't get your wood wet on the inside. It'll move around on you. But anyway, when you come back and you look back at that, it will, you can actually wipe it down with water and double check your work. And it will actually show you if it's got any hard spots or not. It's just a matter of learning how to look at it and stuff like that. When you get it, you can see that those lines that look dark, they'll mess with your eyes a little bit, but it's not there. So it's a no pressure deal. I will sand this completely again just to make absolutely sure. And it takes time to get this stuff good. And if you do go up there and put and see where it looks like there's a line in it, just being foreknown that it's not a real big deal. You're just going to have to take and sand this stuff down, and it's going to take a lot of time, and it won't look all that great when we do all the panel lines. But when you put the panel lines, every bit of those flaws and everything else seem to disappear. So, and then it really becomes the realistic look, because we are going to beat this airplane up a little bit just for the weathering purposes. I don't want it to look like a brand new jet off the showroom floor. I want it to look like a war wagon. So anyway, we'll see you guys in the funny papers. Keep watching, and like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. Anyway, see you guys later.